The stars blurred past Jake Morrison's viewport as his scout ship tumbled through the atmosphere. Alarms screamed in his ears while smoke filled the cockpit. Something had ripped through his vessel's hull during the jump, and now he was falling toward an unknown planet with no way to stop it. The impact came hard and fast. Metal shrieked against rock as the ship carved a burning path through a dense forest. Jake's harness cut into his shoulders, and his head slammed against the headrest. When everything finally stopped moving, he tasted blood in his mouth. He stumbled out of the wreckage, clutching his ribs. The forest around him looked ancient, with trees so tall he couldn't see their tops. Strange glowing moss covered the bark, pulsing with soft blue light. His scanner was broken, but he didn't need it to know he was far from any charted world. A high-pitched shriek cut through the air. It sounded young and terrified. Jake's training kicked in. He moved toward the sound, pushing through thick undergrowth. His ribs protested with every step, but he ignored the pain. Another shriek echoed, closer now, followed by harsh laughter. He burst into a clearing and froze. A creature no bigger than a large cat huddled against a boulder. Its scales shimmered gold in the dim light, and small wings pressed tight against its body. A dragon. A baby dragon. 5 figures surrounded it, all wearing dark armor that seemed to absorb light. They held weapons that looked like swords, but Jake's military experience told him otherwise. The blades hummed with energy, too perfectly balanced, too precisely crafted. These were energy weapons disguised as medieval arms. One of the warriors raised his blade above the cowering dragon child. The creature's eyes were wide with terror, golden and far too aware for something so small. Jake didn't think. He just moved. He crashed into the clearing, throwing himself between the warriors and the dragon. The first blade meant for the child's heart instead pierced his shoulder. White-hot pain exploded through him, but he stayed standing. The second blade came from his left, sliding between his ribs. The third caught his thigh. The fourth and fifth struck almost simultaneously, one in his back, one across his chest. Each wound burned with unnatural fire, as if the weapons were leaving more than just physical damage. Jake collapsed to his knees, blood soaking his uniform. The warriors stepped back, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. They looked at each other, then at something beyond the clearing. Deep roars echoed in the distance, growing closer. The attackers fled without a word, disappearing into the forest like shadows. Jake tried to keep his eyes open, but darkness crept in from the edges of his vision. The small dragon approached him cautiously, its golden eyes filled with confusion and something that looked like gratitude. It made a soft chirping sound and pressed its warm body against his hand. More roars filled the air, louder now. The ground shook with heavy footfalls. Jake managed to lift one arm, pointing weakly in the direction the child had been trying to run before the attack. He needed to tell them. Needed to make sure someone knew the child had escaped. Massive shapes blocked out the sky above him. Enormous dragons, each one large enough to crush his broken ship. They spoke in voices like rolling thunder, words he couldn't understand. One of them knelt, and Jake felt himself being lifted by careful claws larger than his entire body. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness claimed him was the small golden dragon being gathered up by one of the adults, safe at last. Then everything went dark, and Jake knew nothing more. Jake woke to the sound of wind chimes, though he soon realized the sound came from crystalline walls singing as air passed through them. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. He lay on something smooth and warm, definitely not his ship's medical bay. When he tried to sit up, his body protested but obeyed. His hand went to his chest, expecting to find bleeding wounds. Instead, his fingers traced raised scars that glowed faintly with silver light. 5 of them, each one marking where a blade had struck him. A massive shape moved in his peripheral vision. Jake turned his head and his breath caught in his throat. A dragon the size of a small building sat watching him. Its scales were pure white, like fresh snow, and its eyes were the color of winter sky. The dragon spoke, and somehow Jake understood the words. "You are awake, small one. This is good. I am Silverwind, eldest of the Guardians." Jake's mouth felt dry. "Where am I? How long have I been here?" "You are in the Hall of Guardians, deep within our mountain kingdom. 3 weeks have passed since you fell protecting Princess Embra. Silverwind's head tilted slightly. You do not remember. The memory came rushing back. The small golden dragon. The attackers. The blades. Jake looked at his glowing scars again. The child. Is she safe? She is safe because of you. Another dragon entered the chamber, this one covered in scales the color of dark iron. I am Iron Scale, commander of the Guardian Force. You took 5 blades meant for royal blood. Jake tried to process this. Royal blood. She was a princess. Silverwind nodded slowly. Princess Embra, daughter of the High Council. The attackers were rebel dragons seeking to start a war. They used forbidden technology, weapons designed to kill even royal dragons in a single strike. But I'm not dead, Jake said, confusion mixing with lingering pain. No. You are not. Ironscale's voice carried an edge Jake couldn't quite identify. You are human. The blades were calibrated for dragon life force. They damaged you severely, but they also triggered something ancient in our law. Silverwind continued the explanation. Any being who takes a killing blow meant for royal blood is granted the title of Guardian. It is an honor that has never been given to a human. Indeed, most humans do not even know we exist. Jake looked between the 2 massive dragons. What does Guardian mean exactly? It means you are bound to protect the royal family for as long as you live, Ironscale said. It means you become part of our kingdom, our traditions, our wars. It is not a small thing, human. I didn't do it for a title, Jake said quietly. She was just a scared kid. Anyone would have helped. Silverwind made a sound that might have been a chuckle. Not anyone, Jake Morrison. Most would have fled. Most would have valued their own life above a creature they did not know. This is why the old law exists. True guardians are rare. You have a choice, Ironscale said, and Jake heard reluctance in the dragon's voice. Accept the role of guardian, train with us, live among us as one of our protectors. Or we erase your memories of this place and return you to your people. Jake thought about his ship, destroyed in the crash. He thought about his exploration corps, probably already searching for him. He thought about the small golden dragon pressing against his hand, seeking comfort in her terror. If I leave, will she be safe? Will you stop whoever sent those attackers? We will do everything in our power, Silverwind assured him. But the rebels grow bolder. They steal technology from other worlds. They strike from shadows. We need those who think differently, who see threats we might miss. Jake looked at his glowing scars again. He felt different, stronger somehow, like something had changed in him at a fundamental level. The idea of going back to his old life, of forgetting all this, felt wrong. I'll stay, he said. I want to see this through. I want to make sure she stays safe. Ironscale's eyes narrowed slightly, but Silverwind's face showed approval. Then we must perform the bonding ritual. It will link your life to our kingdom. You will be changed, Jake Morrison. There is no returning from this path. Jake stood on shaky legs, his scars glowing brighter. I understand. Let's begin. The training ground stretched across a massive cavern lit by glowing crystals embedded in the ceiling. Jake stood in the center, wearing armor that had been specially modified for his human frame. It felt lighter than it looked, responding to his movements like a second skin. Stormclaw circled him, scales crackling with small arcs of electricity. The dragon was smaller than Silverwind, but still enormous compared to Jake. Again, Stormclaw commanded. Feel the energy in your scars. Channel it through the blade. Jake gripped his weapon, a sword that hummed with the same energy that had nearly killed him weeks ago. He focused on the burning sensation in his chest, the 5 scars that now defined his existence. The blade flared with silver light. Better, Stormclaw acknowledged. But you still fight like a human. Use your size. We dragons are powerful, but you can move where we cannot. Over the following weeks, Jake trained with 4 other legendary guardians. Deeproot, a dragon whose scales looked like ancient bark, taught him to channel the bond energy for enhanced strength. Jake learned to leap higher, strike harder, and endure impacts that would have killed him before the bonding. Night Whisper, a dragon so dark she seemed made of shadow, showed him the arts of stealth and the complex politics of the Dragon Court. "Not all battles are fought with blades," she whispered during their sessions. "Sometimes words and information are deadlier weapons." Each guardian represented one of the 5 blades he had taken. Each one taught him something different. And slowly, Jake began to understand why he had been chosen. During a tactical exercise, Jake solved a problem that had stumped the Dragon Guardians for hours. The scenario involved protecting the royal family during transport through narrow mountain passes. Dragons suggested overwhelming force and aerial superiority. Jake suggested a small advance team using the pass's tight spaces as an advantage. "You're thinking like dragons," he explained to the assembled guardians. "But enemies will think like that too. Small teams can set traps, create choke points, use the terrain in ways large forces cannot." Ironscale, who had been skeptical of Jake since the beginning, studied the human strategy with new interest. "Show us," the commander ordered. Jake demonstrated using modified equipment and tactics from his military training. He moved through the mock passages with speed and precision, setting up defensive positions that would force attackers into kill zones. The dragons watched with growing respect. "Different is not always worse," Deeproot commented, nodding his massive head. One afternoon, Jake was practicing alone when he heard small footsteps behind him. He turned to find a dragon about the size of a large horse watching him with familiar golden eyes. "Princess Embera," Jake said, bowing slightly as Night Whisper had taught him. The young dragon made a dismissive sound. "Don't bow to me. You saved my life. If anything, I should bow to you." She had grown since that terrible day in the forest. Her scales gleamed like polished gold, and small horns had begun to emerge from her head. But her eyes held the same awareness, the same intelligence he had seen when she was small and terrified. "I want to train with you," Embera announced. "Father says I'm too young, but I'm not. The rebels attacked me once. They might try again. I should know how to fight." Jake glanced around, knowing this would cause problems with protocol. "What does your security detail say?" "I left them behind." Embera grinned, showing small sharp teeth. "Night Whisper taught me some tricks." Despite knowing it was probably a bad idea, Jake smiled. "All right. But we start with basics. And if your father finds out, I'm telling him you threatened me." They trained together over the following weeks, always in secret. Embera learned quickly, her young dragon reflexes combining with Jake's human tactics to create something unique. A friendship grew between them, built on mutual respect and shared determination. It was during one of these sessions that Night Whisper appeared with urgent news. "The rebels are moving," she said, her voice tight with concern. "Our intelligence reports they are gathering strength in the outer territories. And Jake, they are using human technology. Advanced cloaking systems, energy weapons, tactical equipment." Jake felt ice in his stomach. "From where? My people don't trade with unauthorized worlds. We believe there is a faction within your civilization working with the rebels. They provide weapons in exchange for something the rebels are stealing from us." Jake looked at his glowing scars, then at Embera, who had gone very still. "What are they stealing?" "Dragon energy crystals," Night Whisper answered. "Enough to power human vessels for centuries. Enough to make someone very wealthy and very powerful." The weight of his species' involvement in this conflict settled on Jake's shoulders. He had thought he was protecting Embera from dragon politics. Now he realized the threat came from his own kind as well. The training had prepared him for combat, but nothing had prepared him for this betrayal. "We need to find out who," Jake said firmly. "And we need to stop them before this becomes a war between our peoples." The alarm crystals shattered the peaceful evening with their harsh screaming. Jake bolted from his quarters, armor materializing around him through the bond magic he had learned to control. Throughout the Guardian Hall, dragons roared challenges and prepared for battle. "Rebels in the palace," Stormclaw's voice thundered through the communication crystals. "They are using human cloaking technology. We cannot see them." Jake's blood ran cold. He sprinted toward the royal chambers, his mind racing. Human cloaking tech used a specific energy signature, one his scanner had been calibrated to detect during his exploration core days. The dragons wouldn't recognize it, but he would. He burst into the main hall to find chaos. Dragons wheeled through the vast space, breathing fire and ice at enemies they could barely perceive. Shimmering outlines flickered in and out of visibility, rebels using stolen technology to devastating effect. Jake activated his scanner, the device integrated into his Guardian armor. Immediately, dozens of red signatures appeared on his display. "Silverwind," he shouted, marking targets on the shared tactical network. 30 meters ahead, 2 rebels by the eastern pillar. The white dragon struck without hesitation, catching the cloaked attackers by surprise. They materialized as they fell, their equipment sparking and failing. "Jake can see them," Ironscale roared to the other Guardians. "Protect him. Let him be our eyes." The battle intensified. Jake moved through the hall, calling out positions while fighting rebels that got too close. His enhanced strength let him match the dragon attackers blow for blow, and his smaller size let him dodge strikes that would have caught larger opponents. But the real targets soon became clear. A group of heavily armed rebels pushed toward the royal wing where Embra and her family sheltered. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he ran to intercept them. He found Embra with 3 other Guardians forming a protective circle around her. The young princess looked frightened but determined, small flames dancing around her jaws. The rebels approached from multiple directions, weapons charged and ready. Jake slid into the formation, his scanner painting targets for the other Guardians. "Deep Root, for coming from above. Stormclaw, 6 on our left flank. Night Whisper, they have someone trying to breach the rear wall." The Guardians struck with perfect coordination. Deeproot's massive tail swept cloaked attackers from the ceiling. Stormclaw's lightning found targets the rebels thought were hidden. Night Whisper appeared behind the breach team and ended their assault in seconds. But more kept coming. Jake's arms burned with effort as he parried strikes and directed fire. A rebel got through the line, weapon raised toward Embra. Jake threw himself forward, his blade intercepting the strike inches from the princess's neck. The rebel's weapon shattered against Jake's guardian blade. The human pressed his advantage, using techniques that combined his military training with dragon combat styles. He was faster than the rebel expected, hitting from angles that confused an opponent used to fighting dragons. Within moments, the rebel was disarmed and on the ground. Ironscale fought nearby, and Jake saw the commander watching him with something that looked like respect. The massive dragon had doubted him from the beginning, but now Ironscale fought beside him as an equal. Jake's scanner picked up a significant signature moving toward their position. "Commander, we have someone important approaching. Energy signature is off the charts." A rebel in more elaborate armor emerged from the shadows, cloaking field dropping away. The rebel commander, a scarred dragon named Ashenclaw, surveyed the defending Guardians with cold calculation. "The human Guardian," Ashenclaw said, voice dripping with contempt. "The pet who thinks he belongs among his betters. You should have stayed with your own kind." Jake stepped forward, placing himself between Ashenclaw and Embra. "I'm exactly where I belong." Before Ashenclaw could respond, Jake activated a capture net, technology he had modified from his exploration equipment. The net deployed with electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt dragon magic and human tech simultaneously. Ashenclaw roared in fury but couldn't break free. The remaining rebels saw their commander captured and began to retreat. Stormclaw and the other Guardians pursued, driving them from the palace entirely. Jake kept his weapon trained on Ashenclaw while other Guardians secured the rebel leader. "You're going to tell us everything," Jake said quietly. "Who you're working with, what they want, all of it." Under interrogation in the secure chambers below the palace, Ashenclaw eventually broke. The rebel revealed a conspiracy that made Jake's stomach turn. A human faction, led by corporate executives hungry for unlimited power, had made a deal with the rebels. They would provide weapons and technology in exchange for dragon energy crystals. The crystals could power human civilization for generations, making whoever controlled them wealthier than entire planetary governments. The rebels wanted the weapons to overthrow the High Council and establish their own rule. "Both sides are being used," Jake said to the assembled council later that night. "The humans think they're just buying crystals. The rebels think they're just buying weapons. But someone is orchestrating this to start a war between our peoples." Council members argued about severing all contact with human worlds. Jake stood before them, his scars glowing as he spoke with passion. Most humans don't know this is happening. My people value honor and justice just as you do. Let me contact the right people. Let me build a team to stop this before it becomes the war someone wants. Embera surprised everyone by speaking up. Jake Morrison took 5 blades meant for me. He has earned the right to be heard. I support his plan. After hours of debate, the council agreed. Jake would lead a joint task force to stop both the rebels and the corrupt humans. It was a massive responsibility, but as he looked at his glowing scars, he knew it was why he had survived. This was his purpose. Jake stood in the communication chamber, preparing to contact his former exploration corps. His hands shook slightly as he activated the encrypted channel. He hadn't spoken to another human in months, and now he had to convince them that dragons were real and needed their help. The face that appeared on the screen was weathered and familiar. Captain Helen Morris, his former commanding officer, stared at him in shock. Jake Morrison. We thought you were dead. Where have you been? That's complicated, Captain. I need you to trust me. I need a team, people you know are clean, not connected to any corporate interests. Can you do that without asking questions yet? Helen studied him through the screen. You look different, Jake. What happened to you? Jake pulled back his shirt, showing the glowing scars. I found something incredible. And something terrible. I need help stopping a war before it starts. Within a week, Helen arrived with 4 specialists she trusted completely. Casey Grant, a pilot with nerves of steel. Lucas Webb, an engineer who could fix anything. Sophie Palmer, a combat medic with experience in hostile environments. Greg Hayes, a tactical specialist with a mind for strategy. Their reactions to the Dragon Kingdom ranged from stunned silence to excited babbling. Lucas wanted to examine everything. Sophie immediately started asking about dragon biology. Casey just kept whispering that this was the coolest thing she had ever seen. Focus, Jake told them, though he smiled at their enthusiasm. We have a mission. Rebels are working with corrupt humans to steal energy crystals. We need to stop both groups before this becomes a war between our species. Greg studied the intelligence reports with professional interest. The rebel stronghold is on a volcanic moon. Natural cover, lots of heat signatures to hide in, defensible position. Smart choice. Can we take it? Ironscale asked, the Dragon Commander now fully supportive of Jake's approach. With the right combination of dragon power and human tactics, yes, Greg answered. But it won't be easy. They planned for 3 days, combining dragon aerial superiority with human technical expertise. The assault launched at dawn, with dragons carrying insertion teams to strategic positions around the rebel base. Jake led the ground team, his human companions equipped with modified Guardian armor. They moved through volcanic tunnels too narrow for dragons, disabling defense systems and clearing the way for the main force. Casey's piloting skills proved invaluable as she navigated the team's transport through dangerous thermal vents. Lucas hacked rebel security systems using techniques that combined human programming with dragon energy manipulation. Sophie kept everyone healthy despite the harsh environment. The main assault came from above. Dragons descended on the rebel stronghold like a storm, overwhelming the outer defenses. But the real battle happened in the volcanic chambers beneath, where Jake's team confronted the rebel leadership. Ashenclaw had escaped during a prisoner transfer and now waited in the heart of the stronghold. The scarred dragon faced Jake with hatred burning in his eyes. You should have died in that forest, human. You don't belong here. I belong where I choose to belong, Jake replied, his blade igniting with silver fire. And I choose to protect those who can't protect themselves. They fought through chambers of molten rock, Ashenclaw using his larger size and strength against Jake's speed and tactical thinking. The dragon's attacks were powerful but predictable. Jake had trained with the best, learning to fight opponents much larger than himself. During the battle, something changed in Jake. His scars began to glow with intense light, brighter than ever before. He felt connected to 5 different energies, 5 elements of dragon magic corresponding to the 5 blades that had nearly killed him. He used this newfound understanding, channeling earth to strengthen his defense, fire to power his attacks, water to flow around Ashenclaw's strikes, air to increase his speed, and spirit to predict his opponent's moves. The combination was overwhelming. Jake disarmed Ashenclaw without killing him, showing mercy even to an enemy who had shown none. "This ends now," Jake said firmly. "No more attacks. No more stolen technology. No more war." With the rebel leadership captured, Greg's team located the corrupt human faction's representatives on the moon. They arrested them, gathering evidence of the conspiracy that would expose the entire operation back on human worlds. The aftermath took weeks to resolve. The corrupt executives faced justice in human courts. The rebel dragons were offered amnesty if they abandoned the insurgency. Most accepted, tired of fighting a war that served only the ambitions of a few. Jake's team chose to stay as permanent ambassadors between humans and dragons. They established the first formal alliance between the two species, opening pathways for trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense. Years passed. Jake aged slower than normal humans, the guardian bond extending his life. He trained new guardians, both dragon and human, teaching them the lessons he had learned about honor, sacrifice, and bridging differences. Embera grew into a powerful and wise member of the High Council. She often sought Jake's counsel, their friendship having deepened into something profound and unbreakable. She called him her truest guardian, the one who had shown her that courage came in all sizes. One evening, Jake stood in the Hall of Guardians watching young dragons and humans train together. His 5 scars glowed softly, no longer symbols of near death but reminders of the choice that had changed everything. He thought about that moment in the forest when he had thrown himself between the attackers and a terrified child. He hadn't known it would lead here, to building a bridge between worlds. He had simply seen someone who needed help and acted. Helen visited him that evening, now serving as the human ambassador to the Dragon Kingdom. "Any regrets, Jake? You could have gone home." Jake looked around the hall, at the students training, at the banners representing unity between species, at Embera speaking with young guardians about the importance of protecting others. "This is home, Helen. This is exactly where I'm meant to be." His scars glowed brighter for a moment, as if in agreement. The guardian who had taken 5 blades for a dragon child had become the foundation of peace between 2 civilizations. And he would continue that work for as long as his extended life allowed, protecting, teaching, and building the future he had nearly died to create.